So I prayed a last prayer, as Mari said, and on the night that I prayed that prayer, a young man came round to visit me. His name was Jeff. I'd known him years before when I was a Christian, and I didn't know anybody even knew where I was living. I thought maybe he was coming and door knocking and telling people about his faith. But he'd been asked to come by my mother and my sister, and he'd spent 3 weeks just praying and waiting on God before he felt happy enough to come. And he came on that night that I prayed. So I felt that I had my sign. And so he was also a person that I could confess to. And it wasn't just confessing the outward things, the things that you could call sins or sexuality. It was actually all that brokenness or rebellion within me, lots of other things. And I knew he was discreet enough to just cover all of that. So when he said to me on Sunday, would you like to come to church with me and my wife? I said yes, because I decided I would make a cold clinical decision that I would now walk in God's ways no matter what, whether I felt happy again or whatever. I was going to make a total cut. That week, the pub that I was drinking at, that all my friends drank at, was closing. God is very gracious, so I never had to know where to go back to go drinking if I didn't want to. My church had been taken away from me, if you like. And so I went up to the pub on its last day, shouted jugs to everybody and said goodbye. And they all said to me, where are you going? I said, I'm going back to God. And they said, well, nobody does that, you'll be back. And I never was. And so that's the short part of my story. The long part takes all that process that God took me through from that one day's decision. He had to change me from the labels I'd put on myself. He had to show me that I was surely the woman that he'd made. I didn't have to be anything else. I did not come back to him to be heterosexual. I came back to God to have my relationship with Jesus Christ. And so that's what I actually focused on. I came back thinking if I never married or never had another relationship, if I never had anybody else in my life, I wanted Jesus Christ more than anything else. And so that was my purpose in that time. I didn't think I'd marry. I didn't think I could ever love a male. But God sneaked up on me with a young man who's 6.5 years younger than me. And at that time he was a skinny young kid who'd been in the punk scene. And he kind of sneaked up on me, got to know me, and I began to realise that God was going to put us together. It was absolutely terrifying to think that I was going to marry this person who was a bloke. And so to me it was like a divine arranged marriage. And I think it's been that way ever since, because I say to him he's lucky. He didn't get somebody who thought that they could be fulfilled by another human being. So he was kind of fortunate. So he's been the most fortunate of all the people I've ever had relationships with. And our marriage has lasted 26 years now. And he called our courtship the taming of the shrew, but it's a lot better than that now, okay? But anyway, so that's about all we've got time for, I think. Okay, so God bless you all.
And we have to struggle to control it by placing our trust in God. Our daughter didn't ask us for any help because she'd already been living this lifestyle overseas for 3 years with her friend in secret before telling us in 1997. They moved back to Australia and lived in another state, but when they first came to visit, we asked them to respect our house rules and sleep apart. They did this for that visit, but have never accepted our invitation to stay again. When they visit, they find their own accommodation, and we do not talk about SSA or anything related to it, like the gay lobby or gay Mardi Gras. Early on we tried, but it always ended in arguments. So in the interest of family unity, we stuck to safer topics. The heartache never went away, and gradually our family and friends came to know of it and usually told us to accept it as okay. Mari.
We knew that to accept the gay lifestyle the girls were living and say it was okay would be gravely wrong. Under no circumstances could it be approved by us. We felt so lonely and unable to share our grief with anyone in the wider family or community because we wanted to shield our daughter and her friend and ourselves from gossip, as people talk. and they usually don't talk nicely. So we had to keep it a secret. Without our faith in God and the church, I don't know what we would have done. We prayed and prayed for help, and went first to our very helpful parish priest, Father John Walsh, down at Mentone, still there, who told us about the head of Courage internationally, Father John Harvey. We read his book, The Homosexual Person, that's out in the foyer now, 2 copies. And so began our long journey into the knowledge of the degradation caused by the gay lifestyle and the road to purity and peace, which Jesus offers through his friendship, his love and his church. It was a big, steep learning curve for us. When Father Harvey came to Australia on a lecture tour 2003, we went to hear him speak in Melbourne. We found out that night about the Catholic movement called Courage, which, as you've heard tonight, is a movement of the spirit in the church made up of men and women who experience same-sex attraction and who seek to live out their lives in fidelity to the teachings of Christ and the Catholic Church. Their aim is to live lives of purity and to grow in holiness by following Jesus. We learned a lot that night and put our names down to help start a support group for Catholic parents of same-sex attracted family members called Encourage. Little knowing what was coming, of course. Our support group was exactly what we needed anyway, a place where we could speak freely, where we could cry and tell of our grief and our anger, our worry, and be deeply, deeply understood, because everyone there was experiencing the same thing. So it was fantastic, still is. We have a wonderful support group. A place where we could be inspired to believe in God's love for us and our children, and where we could gather and strength to live on in holy hope. And our Encouraged chaplain at that time was Father Dennis Ward, and he would always say, God has chosen you especially to be the parents of these children. And he said, now tell me this, if you weren't the parents of a homosexual child, do you think you would have prayed as much as you do? No. We prayed night, day, asleep, awake. We're always going to Mass. We're always, looking for prayer from our other mates. So, in a way, it's been good, I guess. A place to be faithful to Christ and to the Catholic Church. Courage and Encourage do not judge those who choose a different way, but merely seek to provide this forum of mutual support for those who choose the path proposed by the Church to live chastely. Confidentiality, of course, and trust are key to both groups, as other couples are like us and they can't talk about their situation with other people. The Courage and Encourage groups give their members new hope and confidence in their Christian lives. It's hard to live a chaste, pure life for anyone. Everyone has to live a chaste, pure life. But it's very, very rewarding, as you all know. I know too. Now, here are some comments from Encourage members, and some of them are seated here tonight. The first one, this is a woman. Coming to the Encourage meetings gives me hope that prayer and faith in God will work towards our child's salvation. I don't think any worldly talking and intervention will help. Only God can cure it. Another person, a man. The meetings are very informative. At the beginning, none of us knew anything about how to cope with same-sex attraction in the family. The meeting encourages us to carry on with our Catholic faith. There's a high degree of camaraderie because we share so much and so deeply. There's genuine help, both from the chaplain and from the members. We have a new chaplain who's seated over here, Father Laurie Leonard, for his sins. He's a wonderful chaplain to our group. Very compassionate. Another experience by another woman. The group does such a lot for me. They make me feel they know where I'm coming from, like no one else can, not even my sister. When I miss a meeting, I just go downhill about my daughter. Sometimes I can't even pray, so I get out my rosary tape and listen to that. and find some comfort for myself and all the others.